So I feel like working on the Jalopy today. It's probably not what I should be doing, but it's what I'm going to do. Got a few new parts for it. Got the motor together. Got it oiled. Should be ready to start. I got some Welding bungs and some heims to split the wishbones on these. Splitting the wishbones is an old school term, but the suspension links kind of look like a wishbone, and when you split them, you cut them off. Had a little ball, like a uniball kind of thing, that it would, go up, let the suspension turn. That was mounted right under the cross member here. On these, I think it's 35 to 40. They have the leaf in front. Earlier than that, the leaf was mounted right here, like on a 32, that would be the case. So you have to split them here, and you have to keep this angle here so your leaf spring works correctly. And this part is where you cut it, and you're going to bring it straight and then mount it to your frame here. I put something I didn't show you the other day is I had this old drop axle. This would have been one that was heated and bent. It's probably a 3 inch or so drop. You can kind of see a little bit of warpage in there, but whoever did it was in the know and did a nice job, it seems. It is an old one. It's something that I picked up in my travels from my buddy Chris. So this was the one I decided to use it on. I was hoping to use the drum brakes, but I didn't have enough of the correct pieces to make it cheap, let's say. And so I just went with the disc brake kit, which might have been about the same price of gathering the parts, but gathering the parts for the drum brakes might have been actually a little bit more. So just to be done with it, I just got the disc brake kit, just attaches to these stock spindles. Another thing that I did the other day that I did not show you fine people is I put the 55 Ford rear end in this and did the parallel leafs that the 55 Ford came with. Someone had rebuilt this axle, and same axle that came out of the motor and trans that I have in here. Everything was nice and rebuilt. Everything was powder coated on this axle. I just adapted it and made some hangers and put them in. You can kind of see that welded tube there is part of my front or rear ones, and then the front ones were just a chunk of box tube that I made into a spring perch. The drop blocks were already in there. Everything was kind of in the right width and just kind of went right on in. So if you're wondering if a 55 Ford car rear end will go in your, let's say 35 to 41, it will. Alright, somebody has already cut the little center section off of this before I got it. So they're already cut loose from each other. What I think I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try to cut it square to the front leaf spring here, or I'm trying to cut it square to the axle, and then flip this upside down, and I'm thinking that those two cuts will make it to where it's pointed pretty good back. I have no idea, but that's what I'm going to try. Look at that. That'll be just fine. I got this bung here, got our edge cleaned up here. I think while this is mobile, I'm gonna just do a full pin weld on that. It'll be a lot easier than underneath the car. So I'm gonna do that first. When you are doing a weld like this, you want to get that edge ground down pretty far into like a little bevel. Also, you're going to want to screw, anytime you're welding like any sort of a nut, a bung into a thing that has a thread, you're going to want to thread this in, so if it warps, this will help hold it to where the thread works still. Sometimes when you weld it in there, it'll oblong it and then this won't thread in. Got it welded. You can see it, real nice flat weld. Knows that it really went in there, really penetrated. The piece is still screwing in and out. It's really hot right now, but see? That's my glove burning. Oh boy. Alright, I want to get a couple of solid tacks on this, because it is kind of a guess. And so, I have to kind of hold it where I think it goes. Let's do the other side. What I've made here is a sleeve for the bolt that's going to run through our heim. That's going to go into the, this will be mounted, this tube will be mounted onto the frame. I'm going to weld the nut on there just so you can take the bolt in and out easier, and it'll help with the slight bit of looseness of the bolt through the sleeve here. But it should center up down onto that heim, make it nice and tight there. So I'm going to go ahead and get this rear mount welded on our heim joint to the frame. I'm just going to weld that tube right to the bottom of the frame, and then I can probably gusset it on each end. Trying to do like the circle in the middle and then 2 bars that go up like that to the bottom of the frame. After those are welded on, we'll check the caster. Make sure that both the bars are actually cut the same as far as the angle that they've been cut and welded together. I think I can set that a lot better on the front here after those are in, but our main concern right now is to do them the same length or in the same spot on the frame. But we'll get this side welded on, then we'll measure it out and do the same on the other side. Alright, got our heims welded to the frame, our little mounts, and then we have a little bit too much caster actually, so we're rolled back a little bit too much, which I suspected would kind of be an issue with how high I put up the links. It's nothing we can't fix. So what we're going to need to do is a couple of things here. One thing, you can see that my bar is kind of close to the frame, almost under on this side, and on this side it's got actually a really nice looking gap here. But if you notice, this end is a little bit twisted, and it was kind of like that when we started, just probably from the way this piece settled after it was cut. Initially the wishbones were cut. So I want to take this in a little bit, the other side out a little bit, and then I'm going to roll the axle up a touch and then weld on the outside here so we can move this in a little bit and make our spring perch here line up a little bit better with our leaf. Kind of do the opposite on this one. We're still going to cut from the bottom and bring that bar up a little bit, roll the axle back, and then we'll weld on the outside or the back side there, and then push it out to the outside and then get our outside weld. Okay, so we got our beams evened up and we're at 5 degrees on both sides for the caster. Well, close enough for this jalopy. Right on the money for this jalopy, actually. You know, we got that kind of untwisted, so that's a plus. Just need to finish weld up, and I think I'm going to make a little gusset to put on the outside of that weld. It's just when you're cutting with the plasma and just welding that, it can cause pores in it because of the cut making that molten. But the good thing is Ford did such good quality steel in these years. Like these old bolts on here, they'll unscrew. I've unbolted everything on this, except for the ones that were really exposed in here on the inner fender well. As far as all the mechanical bolts and stuff, everything's come loose. It was just a high grade steel. Did a gusset on each side, just for when I'm, that peace of mind when I'm doing 90 miles an hour down the highway. That was a joke, Karen, calm down. Let's go for